Black Heroes Club presents The Man Who Tried to Buy Time. You see, there was once a man named E who believed time could be bought. No, not with magic, not with wishes, with actual money. You see, every morning he woke up before the sun and he worked until his hands hurt. He would work weekends, holidays, birthdays. If someone asked him to stay late, he would stay late. If someone offered overtime, he wouldn't say no. His friends would ask, "When are you going to slow down?" And E would smile and say, "When I have enough." He never had an exact answer. Years passed. He would buy a nicer truck, a bigger TV, move into a bigger place. He once bought a watch that cost more than his first car. But every time he would reach one goal, another one would appear. The truck would need new tires. The apartment would seem too small. The TV would be outdated. And enough always stayed one step ahead. And yet still E believed the answer was simple. Work harder. One cold autumn evening, after another 12-hour shift, E stopped at an old diner just outside of town. Rain tapped softly against the windows. The warm smell of coffee filled the room. Only a few people were inside. A waitress humming while she cleaned. A young couple sharing a slice of pie. And an old man sitting alone by the window reading an old book. E ordered a cup of coffee and sat quietly in the booth. As the waitress walked away, the old man looked up. "You look like you've been carrying something heavy." E gave a smile. "Just work." The old man shook his head. "No." He tapped the table with one finger. "Work makes your body tired." He looked into Eli's eyes. "What I'm seeing is that your soul is tired." E stared into his coffee. "I don't really know the difference anymore." The old man smiled and closed his book. "So, what do you do?" "Well, I work security. Long hours. Uh, whatever they give me." "Well, why so many?" asked the old man. E answered without thinking. "Well, because money solves problems." The old man nodded. "Sometimes it does." E responded back. "I'm behind on bills, so I work. I want to save for a house, so I work. I want freedom, so I work. And I keep telling myself that if I grind long enough, one day I'll wake up and finally have enough." The old man smiled gently. "Enough for what exactly?" E frowned. He heard the question, but didn't quite understand it. "What exactly do you mean?" E asked. "Well, when I was 30, the old man said, enough meant a bigger paycheck. But then when I turned 40, enough meant a bigger house. And when I was 50, enough meant a bigger car." He looked out the rain-covered window. "And you see, when I was 70, enough meant one more afternoon with my wife." Silence settled over the diner. E noticed the old man's wedding ring. "Is she gone?" The old man nodded. 12 years now." "I am so sorry," E responded. The old man smiled. So was I. But being sorry didn't bring back the Saturdays I traded for overtime. It didn't bring back the birthdays I'd promised I'd be home for. It didn't bring back the dinners I kept saying we'd have next week. The waitress quietly filled both cups of coffee. Neither man spoke until she walked away. Then the old man leaned forward. You know what nobody tells young people? He shook his head. You can always make another dollar. He held up one finger. You cannot make another Tuesday. You cannot make another birthday. You cannot make another conversation with someone who's gone. He swallowed hard. So, what are you saying? The old man smiled kindly. What I'm saying is, don't confuse making a living with making a life. The words settled into silence. Outside, a little girl laughed as she splashed through a puddle. Her father ran after her. Instead of telling her to stop, he jumped into the puddle beside her. Water flew everywhere. Both of them laughed until they couldn't breathe. The old man pointed towards the window. See that little girl? E nodded. In 20 years, she won't remember how deep that puddle was. She'll remember that her father jumped in with her. E watched until they disappeared into the rain. Then he quietly asked, Do you regret working hard? The old man answered immediately, No, I don't regret it. I regret believing life would politely wait until I was finished working hard. Those words followed E home. The next morning, his alarm rang before sunrise. He still went to work. He still had bills to pay. He still worked hard. But something had changed. During lunch, instead of eating alone in his truck, he called his younger brother. They hadn't spoken in years. The conversation lasted only a few minutes. It became one of his favorite memories. The following weekend, he visited his mother. She hugged him before he even reached the front door. Oh, I missed you so much, she whispered. I missed you too, Mom, he replied. Months passed. He still chased his goals. But before accepting another shift, he asked himself one question. What am I trading for this? Sometimes the answer was worth it. Sometimes it wasn't. Years later, E returned to the same diner. The waitress had retired. The booth by the window was empty. The old man was gone. E ordered coffee anyway. As he waited, the bell above the door rang, and a young man walked inside. Mud covered his boots. Dark circles rested beneath his eyes. He looked exactly the way E once had. The young man sat nearby, and after a few quiet moments, E smiled. You look like you've been carrying something heavy. The young man sighed. Oh, just work. E smiled. No, work makes your body tired. What I'm seeing makes your soul tired. The young man looked up confused. I don't really know the difference anymore. E looked out the window. Snow drifted gently through the evening sky. Families walked together, children laughed, life moved on, one quiet moment at a time. Then E asked a question that had changed his own life. When will you finally have enough? What are you hoping to buy back? The young man didn't answer. He simply watched the snow fall. And for the first time in a long while, he wasn't thinking about tomorrow. He was thinking about today. Because money can buy comfort, it can buy convenience, it can buy even freedom. But there is one thing he was never able to buy: more time.